Should I share my entire screen? Is that how it works? Or can I just share the presentation?
Let me make you, I think if you're not host already, let me make you co-host.
So you are a co-host, sir.
Oh, you are a co-host. You tell us.
There is an option down called a share screen. If you can just click on it, sir.
Yeah, I clicked over it.
And then, sir, if your PowerPoint window is open, you can just open the PowerPoint window, sir.
Yeah, 1 minute. 1 minute. Is my PowerPoint visible now? No.
Sir, no, sir, not yet.
Yeah, share screen and then
go to your PowerPoint.
Yeah. Shares. The PowerPoint is not visible.
So you have to first make it visible for yourself. To stop sharing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. 1 minute.
Then make it like.
Now it is done. Yeah. 1 minute. Yeah. Now it should be visible. I think.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, the title of the talk is The Recent Trends in Biology and Their Relevance in Understanding Ayurvedic Principles. So, I'll be in the initial phase of my talk, I'll be concentrating on the concept of Tridosha or theory of Tridosha, and how does Ayurveda look at the concept of Tridosha, and how do we need to look at the concept of Tridosha with the background of the recent trends in contemporary biology. Basically, there is a very huge misconception among many of the Ayurvedic scholars and as well as many of the basic scientists that Tridosha is something which is just hypothesis, or maybe it is just something that is a primitive explanation which is similar to the humoral theory which was there in Greek medicine, right? Ancient Greek medicine, it proposed humoral theories, right? And they said that they proposed that the balance of 3 or 4 different humors was required to maintain the health. Though there is some similarity between the ancient Greek thoughts and the Ayurvedic theories, it would be wrong to say that it is a primitive hypothesis or something like that, because the theory of Tridosha is something that is really unique. It is a theory. Fundamentally, it is theory. You cannot explain the Tridosha in the form of any single substance or structure in the body, right? And Ayurveda uses this theory to explain and to construct various important domains that Ayurveda deals with. For instance, to explain Ayurveda biology, Ayurveda uses Tridosha. To explain the Prakriti or constitution, we use Tridosha theory. To even explain and to prescribe appropriate nutrition, we use Tridosha. Even Materia-medica, we use Tridosha theory. In pathology also we use Tridosha. Even in diagnostics, we use Tridosha theory. Therapeutics also we use Tridosha theory. So Tridosha theory is a theoretical framework. It is something like a foundation based on which the entire Ayurvedic epistemology or Ayurvedic understanding of human body and the diseases and also the treatment, right? So all this is based on this foundation. So my talk will be mainly based on the understanding of Tridosha. So for example, when you come to the biology, for instance, Vata is located in Asthi, Pitta is located in Sweda and Rakta, right? Vata regulates respiratory functions, food intake, Kapha provides immunity, and so on. So for each dosha, we have got specific functions, right? So that is one aspect of Tridosha. So Tridosha and its relevance with physiology is only one aspect of Tridosha, right? Whereas there are several other aspects. For example, the role of Tridosha in Prakriti or constitution. For example, the individual with Vata Prakriti looks lean and thin. Individual with Pitta Prakriti is prone to get digestive disorders. Individual with Kapha Prakriti has got long-term, good long-term memory. Individual with the Vata Prakriti has cold intolerance. So these are certain physiological or even anatomical or sometimes even psychological traits of individuals based on Tridosha again. So again, to explain the Prakriti, we use Tridosha theory. Now, we use Tridosha even in nutrition. For example, black gram is Guru in nature. Guru is heavy, and hence it aggravates Kapha, because Kapha also is similar to black gram in the sense that it is also Guru. And similarly, Shashtika Shali, it alleviates Vata. It is Vata Hara. Similarly, individual with Vata Prakriti must consume adequate quantities of milk. So this is how the nourishment or nutrition is also fundamental. Based on the Tridosha only. Right? We even prescribe the nutrition based on the Tridosha concept. Now, examples for the Tridosha theory in pathology. For example, Kamala, the jaundice. It results when Vayu takes Pitta from its actual site to other peripheral sites. This is how we explain the pathology of jaundice, right? So Sthulya results when there is aggravation of Kapha that leads to accumulation of excess of Meda Dhatu. So Kapha, when it aggravates, it leads to the accumulation of fatty tissue. That is how you get obesity. So even in pathology, we use Tridosha, right? Then even in Materia-medica, for example, Gugulu, Commiphora mucul, the resin obtained from Commiphora mucul is effective in Vata and Kapha disorders. Katuki is effective in Pitta disorders. Haritaki, Terminalia chebula, it is helpful in alleviating all the three doshas. So even the Materia-medica or even the individual plants or herbs, they have been ascribed with specific action on dosha, right? So diagnostics, if there is itching, the role of Kapha must be inferred. If there is pain, the role of Vata must be inferred. If there is inflammation, the involvement of Pitta must be inferred. So even when it comes to the signs and symptoms, the diagnostics, we depend on Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Hence, it is wrong to say that Vata, Pitta, Kapha are some primitive substances or hypothetical entities. No, it is a very firm theoretical framework which we apply at different levels of Ayurveda or different domains that Ayurveda deals with. Similarly, the therapeutics, Vamana, Virechana, Basti are the ideal treatment options for Kapha, Pitta and Vata disorders respectively. For Kaphaja disorders, Vamana is best. For Pittaja diseases, Virechana is best. That is therapeutic purgation. Vamana is therapeutic emesis. Basti, the therapeutic enema. That is best in Vataja disorders. Similarly, Taila, Ghrita and Madhu, the oils, then ghee and honey. These are the best options to treat Vata, Pitta and Kapha disorders respectively. So even in therapeutics, we use Tridosha theory. So this is how Tridosha theory is pervading and it forms the foundational basis of entire Ayurveda as such, right? Now coming to the biological aspect. So I'll be restricting my talk to the biological aspect. I won't be going into much of the therapeutics and other diagnostic domains. Maybe at the end, I'll come to some therapeutic domains, but basically let me restrict myself to the biology, right? So Vata, again, the functions of Vata, functions of Pitta have been described and they are very, very clear, right? So for example, Vata is initiator, it is the motive force, it is the one that controls, it is the one that is responsible for division, and it is also the sensor. The sensations are the functions of Vata. Similarly, Pitta is responsible for production of heat, energy, digestion and metabolism. Kapha is related with strength, resistance, protection, immunity, and growth. So these are three different aspects where there is minimum overlap. This is something very important and this is very unique. So we have classified the functions into three categories, and uh, the the responsible entities, right, have been demarcated very clearly. There is very clear demarcation. And of course, this happens with the mutual cooperation and coordination. Without the help of other two doshas, one dosha cannot perform any one function, right? There is mutual coordination, but functional overlap is not there. Basically, it is coordination, reciprocity, and coordination, right? For example, if you uh, uh, consider the recent advances, there is something called neuroimmunoendocrinology, a new branch of biology is emerging as far as human biology is concerned. This is something a very recently emerging branch, and many people are working on this. So nervous system, endocrine system, and immune system. Right now, these three systems are being considered to be the great coordinating systems of the body. Earlier, when we used to study, only two systems were used to be considered as very important: nervous system and endocrine system, because the controlling mechanisms were all ascribed to nervous system and endocrine system. And the interrelationship between these two systems were well understood, like the hypothalamus and then pituitary, and then pituitary, how it controls all other different endocrine glands. All this is well known. But the thing that is recently being understood is that even immune system is a very important part of this coordinating system, or the systems that are important in regulating homeostasis. These are the three fundamentally important systems, right? Nervous system, endocrine system, and immune system. And if you consider the functions of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, they are very, very similar. They are very similar. The nervous system functions are very similar to those of Vata. The endocrine system functions are very similar to those of Pitta, and immune system functions, they are very, very closely related with the functions of Kapha. I'll be explaining certain with some examples in next few slides. So, for example, see neuroimmunoendocrine axis, and then immunoendocrine interactions at the hypothalamo-hypophyseal level. So, these are certain recent insights that the biologists have developed. So, neural regulation of innate immunity. Neural regulation of innate immunity, a coordinated non-specific host response to pathogens. So we never knew that brain plays some important role in immunity. So now it is known that brain and nervous system plays some important role in innate immunity. Even protein, hormones, and then immunity. So hormones and immune system, nervous system and immune system. So these relationships are being exposed these days, and in-depth understanding is taking place. So brain functions as an immune regulating organ. This is something very interesting and important. That is why if you consider Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, it is very, very similar. This is something really, really intriguing. Rather, I would say intriguing, right? This is very intriguing. I don't say that Charaka knew about these three systems or Sushruta knew about these three systems. But what I suggest is that they knew that there are some very important components of human body that are mutually regulated in a reciprocal fashion, and finally they are responsible for the control of entire bodily functions. And this is something really, really interesting. So a great deal of evidence has accumulated and confirmed that hormones secreted by neuroendocrine system play an important role in communication and regulation of cells of immune system. So this is something really, really interesting. For example, if I have to quote from Charaka, balavriddhikarastu ime bhava bhavanti. So immunomodulatory factors like balavat purushe deshe janma, geographical factors, balavat purushe kalecha, season related factors, then bija kshetra guna sampatcha, genetic factors, environmental factors, nutrition related factors, physical strength, mental strength, youthfulness. See, all these has been very clearly explained, and the fact that is astonishing is that The modern science is understanding these relationships only of late, only in the recent past, maybe some last 2 or 3 decades. All this is being reconfirmed. For example, a study where they say that non-genetic host factors, they play an important role in cytokine production and circulating mediators. And also they say that additionally, annual seasonality is found to be an important environmental factor influencing cytokine production. That is, I mean, this is what exactly has been described in Ayurveda, right? Similarly, biorhythms of Tridosha. This is again very, very interesting domain. The rhythmic variations of Tridoshas. Vayoho ratri bhukta namte antamadhyadigaha kramat. Depending on the season, depending on the day cycle, day and night cycle, depending on the food intake, the stages of digestion, and there are so many other factors depending on which the Tridoshas, they show normal variations, biological rhythmic variations. So in the evening, one particular dosha is dominant. In the noon, something else is dominant. In the morning hours, something else is dominant. So such kind of dominancy has been described, and this is very, very interesting. And this is this chronobiology is a new branch which is emerging. So circadian and biorhythms, other biorhythms, have been recognized to have important roles in understanding physiology and in planning pharmacological interventions. And even in pharmacological, not only in understanding physiology, they also have got some important roles to play in pharmacological intervention. This approach is highly beneficial in the management of major chronotherapeutic conditions. So there are certain conditions that have been named, categorized as chronotherapeutic conditions. For example, bronchial asthma, cardiovascular, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, and this is the recent understanding. So you take a meter. Hope I am audible. The problem with internet connectivity. You take any parameter, maybe blood pressure, maybe temperature, body temperature, maybe secretion of hormones, or maybe the action time, everything, all such parameters, they show some rhythmicity within the body, right? Biological rhythms. And they have been identified in Ayurveda. This is very, very interesting and very intriguing, right? So now this is the recent trend, chronopharmaceutics. Pharmaceutics focused on biological rhythms. See certain diseases, right? Peptic ulcer disease, congestive cardiac failure, apnea, Prinzmetal's angina, episodic seizure. So these are certain conditions where the exacerbation takes place during the night hours. Whereas in other cases, for example, chronic pain, dermatosis, osteoarthritis, the exacerbation takes place during the day time. So this kind of variation has been understood and being recorded these days, but this has been already very, very specifically described in Ayurveda in terms of doshic biorhythms, right? Chronopharmacodynamics and chronopharmacokinetics is again newly emerging branches. And in Ayurveda, we say that it is Aushadha Sevana Kala, the time or appropriate time for the medicinal intake or therapeutic intervention. Right? There is a huge or lengthy description of when, in what condition, what medicine should be given, when should be given. In the morning hours, when, in what conditions you should give the medicine. In maybe even during the food intake, when you should give medicine. After the food intake, in which conditions you should give medicine. Before food intake, in what conditions you should take medicine. So all this has been explained, especially in Shankara Samhita and in Ashtanga Hridaya. We get a lot of references related to Aushadha Sevana, the relationship between time and the therapeutic intervention. And modern science is recognizing this very recently, right? So what I mean is that I don't say that Charaka knew about entire this maybe chronopharmacodynamics or chronopharmacokinetics. No, I don't say that. But certain observations that have been mentioned or documented in Charaka Samhita or Sushruta Samhita or Ashtanga Hridaya, they are worth exploring, because the current trends in biology, they indicate that many of the descriptions that have been recorded in the Ayurvedic textbooks, they appear to be very true. And hence, I make a case that we should look at Ayurvedic textbooks with this lens, right, of modern science. Then I think we can have much more insights into Ayurveda, not only into Ayurveda, into human biology, and thus we can have a mutual give and take, right? Ayurveda can contribute a lot to modern science if these fundamental principles are looked at with curiosity. Then of course many things might turn out to be wrong. Of course it is possible, right? But at the same time, many important insights might come out. So by looking at these recent trends, it is definitely evident that the Ayurveda still can contribute to modern science. So person-centered person-centric healthcare is a new trend, but Ayurveda has always been doing that. So if 10 patients come to you who suffer from same disease, as per Ayurvedic treatment or Ayurvedic principles, each of them might receive different therapeutics or interventions. This might be based on maybe Prakriti, Desha, Kala, maybe Anala, right, and so on. There are several factors. Desham, Dushyam, Balam, Kalam, Analam, Prakritim, Vayaha, Sattvam, Satmyam. So all these factors, when you consider, then there is nothing like one disease and one treatment, or one drug and one disease. This approach is not suitable for Ayurveda, and that is why even in the research also we need to take into these principles into consideration. Otherwise, what we practice is different, and what we research is, I mean, it becomes different. So if you do individualized medicine in your practice, then your research methods or research study designs also have to be in accordance with the individualized medicinal approach. Otherwise, there will be a huge gap between what you practice and what you research, how you research, right? So precise prediction and treatment of certain diseases has now become possible because of various genomic tools. See, these are certain recent trends like pharmacogenomics and individualized drug therapy, pharmacogenetics research network, from SNP discovery to clinical drug response. So this is what in Ayurveda has been described as, you look at different, maybe Prakriti, you should look at Prakriti of an individual before you prescribe any drug, right? And this has been confirmed by several researchers recently by using several genomic tools. For example, whole genome expression and chemical correlates of extreme constitutional types defined in Ayurveda. Then a particular gene involvement in high altitude adaptation revealed through the genetic analysis of extreme constitutional types defined in Ayurveda. Then traditional medicine to modern pharmacogenomics, Ayurvedic Prakriti type and a particular gene polymorphism associated with metabolic variability. So several recent workers have shown that the concept of Prakriti may be one of the important tools to explore the concept of this Prakriti could be the modern genomics. So even HLA gene polymorphism. Then so there are several efforts which have been carried out by several researchers. Now I am coming to the next part of my lecture.
Sorry, Dr. Kishor, 1 second. Rupali's Galaxy, can you please mute yourself?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So after having discussed these parallels between Ayurvedic fundamentals, especially the biological fundamentals, and the recent trends in the modern biology, I'll be coming to certain questions so that to stimulate the thought process of researchers working in the field. Uh, for example, we go for snehapana. We give a lot of ghee to drink, right? Before administering any panchakarma, maybe virechana, vamana. We give a lot of snehapana or either ghee or oil, usually ghee. In incremental fashion, we give it. So why this arohana incremental snehapana? Why do we do that? What would be the effects of this incremental increase in the dosage of snehapana, and why should we do this? And does the snehapana act like a ketogenic diet? We don't know. They have not looked at the effect of snehapana, though they have looked at the serum lipid profile and so on. But I think this aspect needs to be looked at. Right? Are we inducing mild ketosis? Not severe, of course. There are several studies which indicate that a mild marginal level of ketosis could be of help in several disease conditions, right? This is the recent trend. Like there is strong evidence and there is some emerging evidence. So there are A and B. This figure, this ketogenic diet. There is a strong evidence that ketogenic diet helps in cardiovascular risk parameters, diabetes, weight reduction, epilepsy. Whereas there is some emerging evidence in conditions like acne, neurological disorders, polycystic ovarian syndrome, cancers, and so on. So why do we go for snehapana? And that too, there is some evidence that even suggests that even short-term ketogenic diet would be of help, right? Earlier, it was thought that only long-term ketogenic diet is of help. But recently, there have been several studies that suggest that, even the short-term ketogenesis could be of immense value in several clinical conditions. So we should be looking at this, right? Otherwise, we will be losing an opportunity to explore and to show that yes, Ayurveda possibly works, or maybe this is one of the ways in which Ayurveda works, could be. Similarly, gut microbiota, of course, nowadays everyone is working on gut microbiota, but there is really something that one must think of gut microbiota, because though microbiota has not been explained in Ayurveda, obviously, they did not have access to microscope, right? Charaka, Sushruta, Vagbhata, none of them, they had access to microscopes. So it is not possible that any description of microbes is found in Ayurvedic textbooks. No, such microbial explanation is not found. But some physiology and some pathological implications of related with microbiota is indicated, right? I'll be asking certain questions in this regard. For example, a loss of balance in gut microbiota is called dysbiosis. This is the recent understanding, and dysbiosis may be linked to health problems such as fungal infections, functional bowel disorders, inflammatory bowel disease, allergies, obesity, and diabetes. Many studies have demonstrated the beneficial effects of prebiotics and probiotics on our gut microbiota. So what is meant by sahaja krimi? There is one explanation in Ayurvedic textbooks. Sahaja krimi, the krimi are some organisms which are naturally present in human body. So what are they? Why did they mention this sahaja krimi? Do they refer to human microbiome? We don't know. But this could be one question. Does the composition of microbiota vary according to Prakriti? This could be another question. Do Vamana, Virechana, Vasti, Nasya act on microbiota and help in correcting the dysbiosis? This could be another question, because the human body contains microbiota, especially in the gut, and then several places where there are mucous membranes. For example, in nasal cavity, in oral cavity, we have got microbiota. So all these interventions could be aimed at those microbiota and could be helping in rectifying this dysbiosis. We don't know. This could be one question that might be asked or worth exploring. Why is takra indicated in diseases like Grahani? Takra, we know that it is a fermented, takra is buttermilk. So fermentation takes place. So there is a role of microbiota. So why is takra indicated in several diseases like Grahani? Right? Takra basti, even the enema using the takra has been advocated. So how does it act? Asava arishta, these are the preparations which are again fermented products, and we use them in several diseases, right? So how do they work? Are they, I mean, do they work as probiotics? We don't know. So these are certain questions that we need to ask. How do Kavala Gandusha act? Maybe this, I mean, this is one of the mechanisms, who knows? So I'm just throwing certain questions so that to stimulate new thinking, so that we may look at the Ayurvedic explanations through this lens. Does the composition of microbiome vary according to individual Koshtha or Agnibala? These are certain questions. Then the physiology has progressed a lot in the recent years. Understanding of human physiology has grown a lot, and enteric nervous system is something which is very important in terms of human biology. So it's the brain of the gut. It is called the brain of the gut, consisting of 100 million neurons, extends from esophagus to anus, and ENS is arranged in two plexus, myenteric plexus, submucosal plexus. Even there are several important similarities between central nervous system and enteric nervous system. Several neurotransmitters, they are very common, right? Acetylcholine, norepinephrine, adenosine triphosphate, serotonin, dopamine, cholecystokinin. These are the neurotransmitters which are common to both enteric nervous system as well as the central nervous system. Even the similar sensitivity to toxins, drugs, diseases, the antidepressants, for example, they decrease the hydroxytryptamine reuptake in brain and enteric nervous system. So that is why the nausea, diarrhea, and constipation, these are produced due to antidepressants. So when you prescribe antidepressants, there will be some symptoms of gut that patients often develop. So antidepressants can be used to calm down the gut and also to calm down the CNS. So these are certain very interesting findings that the pharmacologists and physiologists, they have found out. So Parkinson's disease, for example, the Lewy bodies and amyloid plaques in Alzheimer's disease are also seen in enteric nervous system. So one day, possibly the gut biopsy may serve as the diagnostic tool to diagnose this Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. So gut-brain axis, there is something called gut-brain axis, bidirectional communication between the central and enteric nervous system, and links emotional and cognitive centers of brain with peripheral intestinal functions. And this interaction is through signaling from gut microbiota to the brain and from brain to the gut microbiota. Ultimately, this happens through the mediation of gut microbiota. And this axis mediates several peripheral intestinal functions and mechanisms such as immune activation, intestinal permeability, enteric reflex, enteroendocrine signaling, and so on. So there are again some questions. Pakvasha, why is Pakvasha the primary seat of Vayu? Otherwise, Vayu, most of the functions of Vayu are related to nervous system, right? And most of the Vata Vyadhis, they are neurological disorders. Then why Pakvasha, large intestine? Why the Pakvasha is the seat of Vayu? We don't know. Maybe if we look at this microbiota kind of thing, then we might one day solve this puzzle of why Vayu is located in Pakvasha. Why the seat of Vayu is Pakvasha, right? Is enteric nervous system relevant in understanding the Samana Vayu, the functions of Samana Vayu? Most of them are very, very clearly indicative of the functions of enteric nervous system. Why is the gut therapeutic target irrespective of the disease? This is something very interesting. Maybe Vamana, maybe Virechana, maybe Vasti. All the three are finally targeted at the gut. And gut happens to be the poor target of all the therapeutic interventions irrespective of the disease. This is something really, really interesting. If a person is suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, you give Ksharavasti. If a person is suffering from stroke, you give Rajayapanavasti. If a person is suffering from bronchial asthma, you give Vamana. Hmm? If a person is suffering from some other disorder, Pittaji disorder, you give purgation. Even in the skeletal disorders, even in the muscular disorders, even in the respiratory disorders, even in the nervous system disorders, irrespective of the disorders, ultimately we target gut. Why is that so? Why is the therapeutic target is always gut? These are certain very interesting questions that we must be asking. And if we look at the recent trends in biology, probably we will find answers to these questions. Why is there the role of ahara in most of the diseases? Why ahara is viruddha ahara, right? Or maybe adhyashana, atyashana. So the dietary role, the role of diets or dietary irregularities has been stated to be a very important role in almost all diseases. We used to laugh at this when we were students. We did not know the understanding, or we did not know the gravity of this, the importance of this reference actually, because we used to say that okay, every disease you write ahara, viruddha ahara, but it is really true when you really read these pathologies and the lifestyle related disorders. Ahara happens to be the most important factor that leads to, I mean, that contributes to the pathology. So these are some common sense, some certain observations which are based on common sense that have been defined and documented in Ayurveda, but they deserve to be looked at utmost seriousness. This is what I suggest. Even so, this is the another work, identification of altered metabolomic profiles following a panchakarma based Ayurvedic intervention in healthy subjects. So there are several works that are going on, but again, with this, I think this is the last slide. Yes. So before concluding, I would once again would like to say that we need to have an open mind. We need to have an open-mindedness. We should not try to isolate ourselves, right? As an Ayurvedist, I'm saying this. We should not isolate ourselves. We should be open-minded. We should accept the criticism. We should be asking questions. We should not be blind followers of, or maybe fanatic kind of textual followers. This is what is actually damaging Ayurveda, right? A blind belief that whatever is written in Ayurvedic textbooks is true. This is something we should come out of this. We should be bold enough to ask questions, and then we should be open-minded enough to accept the nuances and advances in the current biology, and we should be willing to shake hands with the basic scientists. Then and then only I think Ayurveda can have the progress that we would like to see. So with this, I would like to stop here, and if there are some questions, I would like to take them up. Thank you. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir, for your wonderful insights on personalized approach of treatment and diagnosis of diseases. I'll just see if there are questions. I think there are no questions. Dr. Abhishek, can if there are any questions.
Yes. So I would I would first want to thank Kishore sir for such a wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
And it has actually opened our eyes. I think after this presentation, if even we can answer one or two of these questions, I'm sure that we can take Ayurveda ahead. So a lot of questions, like for example, Sahaja Krimi, and the importance of Vamana, Virechana, Vasti in dysbiosis, and right from the basic concept, I think these are things like where all our students, our postgraduates and PhD students can take up these topics. And I would personally want to request if the students have any
madam,
they want to know that which are the topics where we can work on, or you all can send us an email and we will ask Kishore sir, or you can contact her directly. We just have one question from Dr. Hina Bhatt, and she asks us that, sir, how can we incorporate these questions in clinical practice?
See, what I would say that clinical practice, we are already doing clinical practice, right? I'm going into the next level of this. I'm trying to understand how do Ayurveda works. How does Ayurveda work? Many of the times we don't know how does it work, and many of the times we don't know does it really work, simply because of a hearsay kind of thing, right? Anecdotal, we get to hear a lot of things like this medicine works wonderfully in this particular disease, but actually that becomes an anecdotal evidence which has got very low level of evidence, right? And unless it is shown how does it act, and what is the mechanism of action, and does it really act, what would have happened if this medicine instead of this medicine some other medicine would have, was given, or no medicine was given. That is why the controlled trials and so on and so forth is coming up, because generating evidence is something very difficult task and very important at the same time. And I'm talking at that level, I'm not talking at the clinical practice level. Clinical practice we're already doing. I'm trying to understand the next level of the action or mode of action, and asking real questions, right? So for a practitioners, these questions may not be that relevant as of today, but for a researcher, for a student, for an academician, these questions become very important. This is what I would like to state.
So
it's important to explain this clinically to our colleagues. It's important to explain this clinically to our colleagues in modern medicine practitioners. See, we should not fall to this trap, right? Of explaining something to someone else. So explanation is fine, but it should not be, fundamentally any research or any research question should emerge out of curiosity. It is called a curiosity driven research. So research should happen because of curiosity. We want to know what is happening. That curiosity should drive our research, right? Any research should not be guided just because we want to explain something to someone else. That would dilute the entire the rigor of research. So doing research is something and explaining it is something. So these are the two different issues. I'm more concentrating on doing research and ways of understanding the Ayurvedic biology.
Yeah, true, sir. Thanks a lot for your explanation. And today's presentation was really important because you highlighted the personalized approach of Kriya Sharir in terms of treatment and also in terms of research. So it was like connecting the dots to complete the picture for overall Ayurveda biology as a whole. Thank you so much for your insights and also on the research inputs particularly. And you're rightly saying that we should not explain things, but maybe once our research is done, the data will talk about it directly. So it will be like evidence-based research coming up, and then the outcome will talk about it and explain everything. So I hope there are no further questions, Dr. Abhishek.
So ma'am, I just want to interrupt. I would like to request Pratibha ma'am to come in and say a few words. And share.
I'm still here. I didn't go. So I think my next appointment is at 10 o'clock, so I still have time. Wonderful presentation, Dr. Kishor. Exactly what is needed today. And this is a perfect follow-on presentation to Dr. Lakhotia ji. I think it's a
I'm very glad to see Lakhotia sir.
it's complementing the points he raised. I think what is in my humble understanding, what is happening, this is a new phenomenon that is happening, that physiologically we are trying to get more insights into what the Ayurvedic framework is and how it correlates to what we know today. Because everything that we are talking about, the gut is like a couple decades old. It's not very old at all. Gut microbiome, dysbiosis, how it's contributing to autoimmune diseases, etc., and gut brain, all those things. I think those are pretty new. I think what is very interesting and must be noted is that, as you rightly said, that we cannot translate Ayurvedic terms and understandings very directly into modern terminology. And I think we should always try and be careful about that. Like apasmara, you can correlate it to grand mal epilepsy, but not 100% maybe. And it goes for the organs, it goes for the dhatus. There is a correlation as far as our anatomical and physiological understanding goes, and also as far as just transliteration of words go. Hridaya could mean mind, it could mean brain also sometimes, as when it is in the sense of the center of something, or the, you know, the top in the hierarchy. Sometimes Hridaya can be used for the head as well. So I think keeping all those things in mind, how our Ayurvedic terminology is a little broader, and we are still striving to get exact correlations, which may not be probably needed or possible. But this mapping of modern understanding onto Ayurvedic framework, I think has collected more momentum right now. And I think something that I wanted to say, yeah, regarding the ghee intake that you said. I think another thing we know is that ghee, most of the toxins are lipophilic. Fat attracts mercury, like for example, fatty fish here in the US. It's not recommended you take from local areas because it can have mercury deposits and other toxins. It has benefits, but fat attracts toxins. So was that also one of the thought processes of Snehapana, is to start to draw deep-seated toxins into the from the shakas to the koshta before the virechana or basti, etc. So these are all very thought-provoking, interesting times, I feel, because we are on the physiological level. I think we have learned a lot, and we are continuing to learn very fascinating new things every day, and that helps us to continue to correlate what we knew, even though I would go right in the middle, what Dr. Lakhotia ji said, that let's not get chained by glorifying that we knew everything, you know, we knew Pushpak Viman was a plane, or, you know, not getting trapped exactly there. At the same time, recognizing that there was some thought process and it could mean something. So leaving the possibilities open, I would say a healthy skepticism instead of cynicism, I think will take us a long way. But this was very fascinating. Thank you so much. And if Dr. Lakhotia has any thoughts on this, that will be wonderful to hear.
I can say that, see, as I said before, and as Pratibha just now repeated, that we shouldn't get trapped into that we knew all. That's one important point. But then we should also understand, and I think Professor Kishor Patwardhan will also agree, that there are many things mentioned in Charak Samhita and so other places, all right, but then unless we know the details, unless we know the actual mechanisms, they remain hearsay. Okay, somebody stated, maybe that is based on some evidence, we do not know. Maybe that based on experience, we do not know. But we cannot just go on following it and doing it unless in today's times we begin to correlate, we begin to understand, we begin to experiment, and then establish as, yes, this is what it is. Because maybe some of the practices that are there with practice may not be as good. Unless we experiment, then we will not know. So I think the question that have been asked, the question that have been raised, need to follow up, and the Ayurvedic community need to really look at how do we understand our biology in a better way and thereby make use of it for the treatment part that is there. And so we need to go with an open mind. That's I repeat again, that we need to go with an open mind and then look at it, what is correct, what may not be correct, what is which needs modifications. If it does, we shouldn't hesitate in modifying that. But that can happen only when we seriously inquire into these issues in detail. That's the main point.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Yeah.
Dr. Abhishek, over to you.
Yeah.
So much.
Okay.
I would
Yeah,
just
thank
want
you.
to request Pranita to give the conclusion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abhishek. I must appreciate Dr. Pratibha ma'am to link in all the topics so nicely that we are going from Pindi to Brahmandi concept in our lecture series. We started from epigenetics, then Lakhotia sir highlighted Ayurvedic biology, then Velle madam talked about the research. Today, Patwardhan sir highlighted how the fundamentals of Ayurveda are essential in not only in context of research but also in clinical practice. And tomorrow's topic is also very interesting because it is about systems biology and artificial intelligence and how we can become a global healthcare provider by Dr. Akash Kembhavi sir. So tune in for the next session as well, and we will meet tomorrow time. Thank you so much, Kishor Patwardhan sir, for your insightful lecture. And thank you so much, Lakhotia sir, for being there and guiding us through, and Dr. Pratibha ma'am. And thank you, Abhishek, for moderating today's session.
Dr. Pranita, I think tomorrow's session is at 7, right? We are having some special announcements.
Yes. Yeah, ma'am. It will start around 7 o'clock. And we'll also have some special announcement regarding Journal Club for India chapter. So we'll take few minutes for that, and then our lecture will continue. Same
Thank you.
link will follow. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Our
Thank you,
pleasure,
sir.
honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sir. Thank you.